Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're going to be diving into the world of cannabis in Florida today.
Okay.
Florida, it's known for its sunshine and beaches,
Yeah,
but also a really complex medical marijuana market.
it's true.
And things have been shaking up recently.
Hmm.
Florida's expanded its medical marijuana market by issuing 22 new licenses.
Interesting.
Sounds good, right?
Well, yeah. On the surface it does. But is it really a win for patients?
That's the question.
Or are there deeper forces at play here? Something else going on.
That's what we're here to find out, I guess.
Exactly. What's interesting is that Florida's medical marijuana market, it's been dominated by just a handful of companies.
Small group.
Yeah. For a while now, critics are calling it a corporate stranglehold,
Right.
This expansion, issuing those 22 licenses, well, that breaks a 19-month licensing drought. So it's a big deal.
It is.
But the timing, it's a little curious.
How so?
It comes right after that failed Amendment 3, the one that aimed to legalize recreational cannabis in Florida.
Interesting timing, for sure. Makes you think, huh?
It does. You can't help but wonder if there's a connection. Maybe a way to kind of appease voters
Yeah.
while keeping that tight control over the market.
I see what you're saying. It's definitely a thought-provoking point.
And it brings up that big question,
Yeah.
who really benefits? Is this really for the patients?
Right. The almost 1 million patients who rely on medical marijuana in Florida.
Exactly. Because, well, if you look at the state laws, they say they have to issue new licenses based on how many patients are registered, right?
Yeah.
And they hit that benchmark years ago.
Oh, wow.
But the state's been out of compliance.
What's the excuse?
They say things like due diligence and fairness, reasons for the delays. But those arguments, they don't really hold up when you see what's happening to actual patients.
Like, what are the consequences of these delays?
Well, you've got limited dispensary locations, prices are super high. The whole system feels more about profit than people.
Yeah.
It's hard to see how that aligns with actually caring about the patient's well-being.
Yeah. That's a big disconnect.
It really is.
Seems like they're intentionally making it harder, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
For both the patients and any new businesses that want to get into the market.
Yeah. Like it's almost set up to create obstacles.
Right. Obstacles, red tape.
It's a real challenge. Think about those companies that spent those 19 months waiting, not knowing if they'd get a license.
Just hanging on.
Exactly. Basically bleeding money that whole time. Rent for retail spaces, leasing land, operational costs.
Yeah.
All that without knowing if they'll ever actually get to open their doors.
That's crazy.
It is. Some of these companies were paying tens of thousands of dollars every month just to hold on to a potential dispensary location.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's a huge financial burden. Makes you wonder if the system is rigged,
In favor of those with the most money.
Exactly. The ones who can just wait it out while everyone else goes broke.
Right. The smaller players. Those who can't afford to just sit and wait.
And let's not forget about the people working for these companies.
The employees.
Stuck in limbo for almost 2 years, not knowing what's next. That's got to be stressful.
Definitely. A lot of uncertainty and pressure for everyone involved.
Absolutely. It creates a lot of turnover, Key people just can't afford to wait around forever.
Right. They have to move on, find something else.
Exactly.
And to think that in other states, you can get a license approved in just a few months.
It's wild, right? Makes Florida's process look even more drawn out.
Deliberately so, maybe.
It's hard not to think that way. Like they're creating hurdles on purpose.
To benefit who?
Well, who's already in the market?
All right.
Those who can afford to play the long game.
Makes you question the whole purpose, doesn't it? Is it really about picking the best applicants?
Yeah.
Or is it about protecting those who are already making money?
There's definitely a potential for conflicts of interest there. You can't ignore that.
And the influence of those who already have a stake in the market. They must have some pull when it comes to shaping the regulations.
I think it's something we have to consider. It's not always smooth sailing, even when a company does manage to get one of those licenses.
Yeah.
It's not over yet.
What do you mean?
Think about the legal stuff. The lawsuits. Happens every time.
Every time they issue new licenses.
Every single time. You get a new batch of licenses, and then boom, a bunch of lawsuits from the people who didn't get one.
Wow. From the rejected applicant.
It's like a cycle,
A frustrating one.
It really is. And it just slows everything down even more.
Keeps those patients in limbo.
Right. Stuck in the system that's clearly not working for them.
So even with this expansion, it's not like things are going to change overnight.
Nope. No sudden influx of new dispensaries.
No big price drops.
Not likely. These legal battles, they can drag on for years.
Please.
It could be a while before we see any benefits for patients.
That's a shame. It would be great to see more access, especially for people who live in rural areas.
Oh, yeah. The ones who have to travel for miles just to find a dispensary.
Imagine if prices came down too. That would be a game changer.
Absolutely. Especially with insurance coverage being so limited for this kind of treatment.
A lot of patients are already struggling financially on top of their health issues.
That's right.
It just seems crazy to me. You have all these potential benefits from a more open market,
Yeah.
but then you've got Florida's regulations holding everything back.
It makes you wonder what they're so afraid of, doesn't it? Why not just make things easier for everyone?
Right. Why all this red tape and control?
Yeah.
Maybe they think if cannabis becomes too accessible, it'll be bad somehow.
That's the fear-mongering we're talking about.
Stuck in those old stereotypes and misinformation.
Yeah, it really affects policy decisions.
And ultimately, it's the patients who suffer.
They deserve better. Safe, affordable medicine without all the hassle.
Yeah.
This whole conversation, it brings up a really important question.
What's that?
What is the point of a medical marijuana program?
Yeah. What is the point?
Is it about compassion, helping patients get relief?
Right.
Or is it about protecting the big guys, the ones who are already profiting?
The ones who control the market.
That's what it feels like sometimes, doesn't it? Looking at what's happening in Florida.
It's hard not to feel cynical. All these restrictions, all the regulations, it's just a mess.
I get it. It's a complicated system, and it often feels like it's stacked against the patients.
Especially those who can least afford it.
Exactly. The ones who are already dealing with so much. We got to figure out how to change that.
Shift the focus back to where it belongs. The patients.
The individuals who need relief. The ones who deserve a better quality of life.
I think it starts with acknowledging something basic.
What's that?
Cannabis shouldn't be a privilege, whether you're using it medically or personally.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
It should be a right, not something you have to jump through hoops for.
I like that. Access for everyone.
It's almost like, we're talking about something bigger here than just getting medicine.
Right.
This whole cannabis thing, it's tied up in all kinds of issues. Social justice, economic fairness.
Absolutely.
Even personal freedom,
It's all connected. And what's really striking about Florida, even with these little steps they're taking to expand the medical market, the whole system, it's still set up to keep things unequal.
The same inequalities that have always been there.
Exactly.
You're talking about how a few big companies, they've got all the power.
Yeah.
Makes it almost impossible for smaller businesses to compete.
Especially those from marginalized communities. They just can't get a foot in the door.
Right. And if Florida actually does legalize recreational cannabis one day,
Yeah. What happens then?
if they stick with this same approach, super restrictive, top down,
It's not going to be good.
it'll probably just make things worse for those who've already been hurt by prohibition.
Exactly. Instead of creating a market that's open and fair for everyone, it could end up making things even more unequal.
So basically, full legalization could backfire.
It's a real possibility.
Yeah.
If the focus stays on control and regulation with those limited licenses and all the barriers, it'll be the big businesses, the ones with tons of money,
Right.
who benefit the most. It's a missed opportunity, really, to create a system that actually helps communities and promotes social equity.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What would a fair cannabis industry in Florida actually look like?
Good question. First, you got to acknowledge the history, all the injustices that have shaped this industry.
Right.
Prioritize licenses for social equity applicants. Give financial support and resources to small businesses.
Help those who are hurt the most by the war on drugs.
Exactly. Give them a chance to participate in this new market. It's about repairing the damage that's been done.
It's a big shift, for sure.
It is. It's about changing how we see cannabis.
Not as something dangerous that needs to be controlled.
Right. But as a plant with potential benefits, it's about promoting well-being.
Individual choices.
Exactly. Not about profits for a select few, not about government control for no reason.
I like that. A system that actually cares about people.
That's what we need, a system that helps people live healthier and happier lives.
Wow. We've really covered a lot of ground today. From the specifics of Florida's medical marijuana market.
Yeah, a lot of details.
To the bigger picture of cannabis policy.
Social justice, economic fairness, individual freedom.
All those big ideas.
It's been a great deep dive into a really important topic, one that affects all of us, really.
Definitely. And as always, we want our listeners to stay informed, get involved in these conversations, keep pushing for a better future for cannabis.
In Florida and everywhere else, it's a movement that's happening all over the world.
Remember, knowledge is power.
Absolutely. The more you know, the more you can make a difference. The cannabis world is changing fast, so staying informed is key.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for having me.